Morning and welcome to Coffee Break Accounting with me, Becky Brooksbank. If you haven't already grabbed your cup of tea or coffee or drink of your choice, press pause now and go and grab one from your kitchen and come back for 15 minutes or so of jargon-free accounting with me, Becky. So today we are on my PowerPoint's not working. Why is it not working? Let's try this. There we go. We are heading towards series 2, so episode 5. So series 2 has been everything about simple systems. So far we've looked at why legally you need to have a system in place for recording your business numbers and or your essential data. We have also looked at accounting software and why I always think it's important to have accounting software for your business. And we've been having a look over the last couple of sessions for things to do with Xero. So I had a look last week at the best bits of Xero and sent you away with a takeaway task, which was to have a go at raising an invoice in Xero and comparing the time it takes to that in which you would do it under your normal system. And the one thing to note is that I can guarantee it will have saved you time. So if you've got any feedback on how that went, please do feel free to let me know. I'm also going to take a short pause here and apologise for any noise that you hear from upstairs. My 6-year-old is currently jumping up and down. So apologies, we are on lockdown, so can't do much about it. Hopefully it won't become too disruptive for you. So anyway, today we are going to look at petty cash, and I thought it was really important to have a whole section on its own for petty cash, because I cannot stress the importance in a business of keeping track of your cash. And you might sit there and on first thoughts think, well, actually, petty cash to me is just a bit of cash that people use for milk money or whatever. But actually, petty cash can cover, yes, exactly that, a petty cash tin. So for an accountant like me, I just have a balance in my petty cash tin, and if Caroline needs to pop to the office and get post office and get some stamps for work, or if we're short of milk, whatever it is, she pops out with petty cash and then comes back and gives me the receipt for the change, and I book that through Xero, and then we top up the petty cash tin so I always know how much is in there, and we don't get caught short if we need anything. So that might be all you have for many businesses, but outside of that, actually let's think about other cash-based businesses. So if you have a shop, for example, a retail shop, or a cafe, or a business premises that takes cash, then you will also have petty cash going through your business in that way. So actually petty cash can cover your floats, and also any cash movements that you have through your business. So let's think back to the cafe example. Okay, so we have a cafe and every day they start the day with a £200 float. So I would always expect their petty cash floats total to be £200. But during the day, they'll have their customers coming in. They potentially using iZettle, many people do now. And iZettle will tot up the number of cash sales for the day, and it might be £148.50. iZettle will recognise if you've linked it up nicely. Another key tip for any iZettle users, link it to Xero, it does all the work for you. iZettle will tell your petty cash that there's £148 in cash there. So all of a sudden your cash balance will go up to £348.50. But you might have bought some flour, for example. They might have been baking. They might have needed some sugar because they've run out and popped to the shops and maybe spent £3.25. So that £3.25 will then be taken out of the cash balance. So actually, at the end of that day, they will have £345.25 physically available. And then they might decide, actually, we need to go to the bank, and every day they go to the bank and they deposit what's left. So they would have deposited in the bank £145.25. So as you can see, this is where things start to get complicated. And if you don't have a good system around your cash, you soon lose track. Okay, so petty cash can cover floats, and petty cash can also cover if you're a significantly cash business. Obviously, you've then got to figure out all your cash transactions, and you might be talking thousands in a go. So there are businesses like roofers. Let's take John Tapp, our plumber. who's our case study for the Coffee Break Accounting series, he has a lot of cash transactions because some people do like to pay in cash. So how does he keep track of those? Okay. So why does petty cash get a section of its own? Okay. I've just explained to you how we can use petty cash in our businesses, but why does petty cash get a section of its own? Well, it's the easiest way to steal. So if you are a sole trader, you're not likely to steal from yourself. But if a cafe has a couple of casual staff, they might decide, you'd hope that you trust them, but they might decide that £10 here and there won't go noticed. And if you haven't got a system in place to catch it, how do you know that somebody isn't actually taking something out of your earnings? Okay, so for me, it is one of the easiest and open places that you could potentially have fraud in your business. So, but it's one of the easiest and simplest ones to track. It's an easy oversight for business owners to make. So what I mean by that is people think, oh, well, it's fine. I've got a petty cash tin. It doesn't really matter. What's the transaction's going to make a difference? It's only 20 quid and we spend £5 here and there. But actually every expense you want to record through your business because you want to make sure that you are showing your true profitability. And all those £5, £10 start to add up over a year. So actually, if you forget to add your petty cash tin into your books, you might be finding that actually, one, you've got, you're paying more tax on your profits because you haven't included some income into it. And two, actually, you might be spending more in your business than you realised. So it's important for both those things to make sure that you do things right. Okay. Now, cash income still counts. Oh my word. How many times have I heard, well, I'll just do it in cash. They want to do it in cash. You can't hide cash from HMRC, okay? HMRC still requires you to put all your cash transactions, be it cash income and declare them as sales, or cash outgoings and declare them as purchasings, through your books, be it as under corporation tax for a limited company or self-employed for sole traders. Now, I'm not picking on one industry here. There are many, but it is more likely, and HMRC are more aware of the construction business, car sales, all these high cash value business and enterprises that do fall under the radar, and people do try and, for want of a better word, fiddle their cash incomes and outgoings. I would say always make sure that you have your cash transactions right and you can prove your cash ins and outs of a business, okay? Because eventually, if HMRC do decide to investigate and things start to not add up, it's really easy to spot, okay? So cash income still counts. Cash expenses still count. Let's get them recorded. Let's tell HMRC. Okay, so the system covers a lot of handy things. Petty cash system covers a lot of handy things in Xero. Okay, so it's really important that we recap in Xero, because how we deal with petty cash will mean that we get some tips on how to deal with some other things. So I always thought it's really important to have a go. So we're going to go and have a quick flip over to Xero, and I'm going to give you a 5-minute demonstration on how you might get petty cash floats and a cash balance working in your books. Now, apologies if the video stutters a bit here. I've forgotten to open Xero, so I'm going to do that and crop this bit out. So if there's a jump in the video, that will explain why. So come back to you shortly. So hi everybody, thank you for being patient there. I've now opened Xero, and as you can see, I've put it on the demo company, so you're not seeing any information that anybody can't already see. Okay, so the demo company doesn't actually have a petty cash account set up, which is great, because actually it will enable me to show you how to add a petty cash account right from the start. So if you click along the top and add bank and go to bank accounts, you will see that you get the option to add account. So I'm going to call this, oh, I can't spell, petty cash and floats. Now it's asking you to find a bank, but they can't find one because obviously we don't need to link it to a direct bank, but it'll give you the option to add it anyway. So I'm just going to call it petty cash and floats again, and it's just going to be an other account. I'm going to just put all zeros in for the sort code and the account number, because obviously we don't really need, I think I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, too many there. and it's going to be in GBP. So I'm going to click save. So what you'll see now is before there was a business bank account, a business savings account, and a petty cash and floats account in Xero. And if we go back to the dashboard here, we'll see that it's added. Now, quite rightly, it's telling us that there's no transactions imported yet. Now, the thing to remember with petty cash is it's not like the bank. You can't get a direct bank feed to it because obviously it's physical cash. So what we need to do, and I would suggest, depending on the number of transactions you have in cash in your business, that you do this weekly or potentially monthly, depending on when you want to reconcile your petty cash. But you will have to import the transactions. So what this is basically doing is adding the ins and outs into Xero for you, okay? So you can follow the prompts and it will always say it here. And you must use one of their file types, okay? So you can download their template. I've already got a statement template. I keep one on my desktop all the time, but I'm going to download a new one, okay? And the reason I say use their template is because everything's in the correct format. So if you get it right, if you use their, it will automatically import. So I'm going to make up a few transactions here, okay? So I'm going to say that on the 1st of April this year, I deposited £200 that came from, so I went to the bank, I took out £200 for my float that I'm going to generate, and that came from the business bank account. Now you have all sorts of options across here and it depends how much detail you want to go into, but you don't need to necessarily use them all. So I tend to use the first 4 and ignore the last 2. So the description I'm going to put in here is opening float. Oh, again, I can't spell. Please ignore any problems like that. So opening float. I'm then going to say on the 10th of April, I went to the shops. I'm going to go back to pretending I'm a cafe and I bought £5.25 of provisions from Tesco's, for which obviously I've got a little receipt. So you'll notice here, and I'll make this a little bit bigger for your eyes, you'll notice here that anything that you're putting in, so any cash you're putting into your petty cash is positive and anything you're spending goes in as a negative. And I'm just going to call this tea bags. Okay. Then on the 15th of April, I had a junior pop in. I haven't got a payroll at the moment. I pay all my staff because they're all voluntary workers, not voluntary as the one, shift workers below the minimum £118 a week. But I paid her £30 for the day to come and help, and her name was Annabelle. And I'm going to put wages in there. So she came and helped me out on a Saturday, cleaning up, etc., etc. And I paid her £30 out of my petty cash tin. Okay. I then also will have to think about all my cash in. So what would happen every single day? Okay. In theory, every single day, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my sales from my customers. And I'm going to pretend that I don't have a nice fancy system in place for my business. So on the 1st of April, I had £32.50. It was a quiet day on sales. Then the next day I had £58.75. Quite often people pay by card, but you can now start to see how that begins to add up. Okay, and I'm going to put £55.63. Okay, now I'm not going to sit here and list the whole because I think you get the idea. But then I decided on the 3rd of April that I needed to bank all my sales for those few days. So I'm going to take £166.88 to the bank. And I'm going to put takings banked because it might be that we don't go to the bank all that often. Okay. So if I now just save this to my desktop so we can find it when we import, and I'm just going to go to desktop and save. Okay, it's put it up here so we know we can import it. So importing a transaction is really simple. We've downloaded the template, we've put all the transactions in. Now, if you're doing this daily at the end of a day, you'd only have a few to do in. If you're doing it monthly, then obviously you'll somewhere keep a log. Okay, so literally we then go in and we ask Xero to find our template for us, and ours was 27, so we're going to do that, and we're going to click import. And you'll see here it's found what we want it to find. So it's saying, right, I've found the standard imports. This is what I can see. Is that okay? And we know that it is because it matches our system. Okay. And it's imported all those. So now you can see that what Xero is telling us is in our petty cash balance, as per the physical cash, there's £164.75. And the transactions that have happened are all of these that we put in our spreadsheet, okay? So everything on the left-hand side is what are the actual physical cash movements that we want to check. Now, what we have to do is get everything on the right side to match. So this is when we tell Xero what has happened to this money, okay? So here we know that we took £200 out of the business bank account and put it into the float. So we are going to do a transfer from the business bank account to the petty cash account for the opening float. So what that'll mean is it'll put that transaction in the other bank account too for us to match off later. And we can click OK. Now, here we've got a sales transaction. So I'm going to create a transaction that basically says all this money needs to go to sales. So who is it? Well, it's cash sales. What is it? It's sales. So you can type in sale to find it, or you can type in the number. I know them all. And then you can put cash takings 1st of April 2020. Now I'm going to say that mine are no VAT because my cafe in my head is a no VAT cafe. But you can put VAT on them as well, okay? And then similarly, you start to generate the same transactions. And you will find, as you start doing it more often, that it will auto recognise things, okay? So if you put cash sales in after doing it a few times, maybe 6 or 7 times, it will auto fill in these boxes for you as well, which is a great tool to have. And I'm just going to do cash takings, go forth. So what that's done is already recognised all our sales for us. We've done nothing else, okay? Now, if you had linked iZettle to this, you would find that all your sales transactions would already be appearing in that right-hand column, and you would simply be able to go down and just reconcile them all. So that's one of the bonuses of being able to add or electronically add iZettle into the system, okay? So again, remember this one was where we bank takings. So we're going to transfer the money. And again, it goes the other way, but it doesn't matter. We're going to say we banked takings. So what it's going to do is put the equal and opposite transaction into the bank. Okay. And then we bought some tea bags. Okay. So we can have a new contact as Tesco's, or you can put those miscellaneous. What were they for? If we had it set up properly as our cafe, then it would obviously have a food expense, but this one doesn't, so we'll just call it a direct expense and we'll call it tea bags. Now here, if you wanted to, which I would suggest, you can add a picture of the receipt, okay? So you simply take a picture of it and then you upload the file here, and I'm just going to choose this template. It's a random document, but doesn't really matter, okay? And it's as simple as that. So actually, when you click Save Transaction now, you've kept a copy of that receipt with that transaction if you ever need to refer back to it, or if HMRC investigates, okay? And similarly, I'm going to do a transaction here where I pay Annabelle. She's going to be a direct expense, a direct wage, because I'm paying her for her services. Why? Helping on Saturday. And then I'm going to click OK. So as you can see, it's really simple to do transactions for your petty cash account. And your key is always to get your accounts to reconcile. So say great job. Now, once you've done this, what you should be able to do is go over to your petty cash floats and count £164.75. Because your physical cash balance should agree to the balance that you are showing in your books. If it doesn't, you've got a problem because you've missed a transaction. Okay. And my hand on heart best piece of information I can give to any business owners with cash is you need to regularly reconcile and regularly count your cash and understand why it doesn't balance if it doesn't balance. Okay. So that was a very quick overview of dealing with petty cash in your bank, how to import a statement, and then how to match off transactions. But all I wanted to do was give you a flavour for that today. So let's just head back into our slideshow and go back to where we were. So we've had a look in Xero, and as you can see, hopefully now you can understand why I wanted to get petty cash as a section on its own, because it's so important for businesses to have a look at their petty cash and make sure that you are counting everything, that you haven't got any fraud going on, and that any transactions with HMRC, if they ever question, you can be confident that your cash is all up to date. Okay, so that's it for petty cash today. Your takeaway task is to have a go at getting your float, cash account, petty cash tin, whatever it is, set up in Xero and load your transactions in so far, just as I have done there. It would be great if you could also do that with supporting documents, so taking pictures of some of your receipts and getting them stuck in as well. All right, so that sums us up on simple systems and petty cash. Next week we are going to start looking at bad debt system and how you can think about bad debts and chasing debts, and hopefully use Xero to help you as well. So thanks very much for joining me on this week's Petty Cash Coffee Break Accounting, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. Take care, everybody. Bye.